So now we are blessed to have on the morning show the fire department from St. Kitts. Oh, can I say St. Kitts Nevis? Is it safe to say St. Kitts Nevis? Okay, great, great. I just make sure I, dot all my I's and cross my T's properly. Now, this morning, our main objective is just bring some awareness to you, let you all know that this program will be happening every Tuesday morning at 9:30. So please do spread the word and be sure to tune in and check out what the fire department has to offer in terms of sharing their information. You'll be very, very, very surprised. But this morning, though, we want to start off with just the basics in terms of, some history, some background, just in case you might not be aware of it being a Kittitian. So over to you, gentlemen, and we'll take our conversation from there. Good morning to both of you, by the way.
Good morning, GQ. Good morning to our listening audience.
Good morning.
Yeah, you don't. Unless you're going to take some calls after, if you want.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, good morning, the listening public, those who are on the social media. This is Sergeant Williams, Fire and Rescue Services, and we are with you this morning just to chat with you a bit, basically on the... First of all, we start off with the history of the fire services, and then we'll move on from there. So historically, the month of October is the anniversary of the establishment of the fire brigade, as it was known then on the island of Nevis. So the fire brigade would have started on Nevis. And the records indicated that the fire brigade, when it started with about 149 years ago.
Wow.
Yes, on the island of Nevis. And then 3 years later, it came over to the island of St. Kitts in 1875. On the crew, they had one captain, one lieutenant, and 25 men. The appointment was made by the administrator, and these officers were enlisted for 12 months. Their pay was as follows. Now, these guys, they were well paid. Well, at least back in those times.
Right.
The captain was paid a whopping $4.80. Wow. The lieutenant was paid $2.40, and other officers were paid 60 cents. And all officers were paid on a monthly basis.
Wow.
Imagine that.
Yes, 60 cents a month. Well, the division became a part of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force in 1956 under the command of Superintendent James, an Englishman. The brigade became a part of the Leeward Island Police Force by SRO 2459. The name was changed by an act of legislature 9 of 67 and was referred to as the St. Kitts, Nevis and Anguilla Police Force Brigade. The brigade was then divorced from the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force on the 4th of January 2000 by an Act of Parliament number 6 of 99, thereby assuming the name of the St. Kitts and Nevis Fire and Rescue Services. In all the areas stated in the foregoing, it is all geared towards ensuring optimum safety. Now, this brief history and the research was done by the then Mr. Harvey Hendrickson, who was the DFO, that's the Divisional Fire Officer for the Nevis Division, the person who is in charge of the fire services in Nevis. Mm-hmm. So that's just a brief history of how the fire department started and where it was started, and the strength at the time, and the salaries and what's not. So I hope this would have somewhat piqued your interest as to where the fire services came from.
So as it stands now, what is your mission? What is your mission statement, I should say?
Second?
What is your mission statement as it stands now?
Okay,
Yes.
well,
Is it the same as then, or has it changed?
well, our mission statement, it says, in part, the mission of the St. Kitts and Nevis Fire and Rescue Services is to protect and safeguard the lives and property of citizens and the general economy by preventing or reducing the dangers and effects of fires and explosions. So I think that is a mouthful for us as a mission statement. Now we bear in mind all areas of the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis. So it's to do with lives, property, anything that is of value to someone. We go in and make sure that is safe.
Sergeant Williams?
Yes. So like Mr. Martin mentioned, we save lives. The mission statement, we save lives. Our fire prevention drive is all about reducing, preventing at all costs fires, explosions, etc. And we not only, when we say we save lives, we don't only save lives of the human beings. We also value the lives of animals. For we have, in our career as firefighters, we have seen that there are persons who, for them, their pet is family, and I mean family. We have seen persons who would have lost pets to fires, and they break down, literally. So when we get calls and we hear animals, we respond with the same urgency because we know what pets mean to the owners.
Indeed.
So we respond with the same urgency. So we protect the lives of animals as well. So it all encapsulates everything: animals, livestock, people, their possessions, everything. That's what we're there for, right?
It's very difficult to build your dream for how many years you have been on this earth, and then in one single day, half an hour, split second, that everything goes up in smoke. We know that is very hard for persons. So we do our earnest effort in getting in that fight, in protecting whatever property you have as an individual.
So in other words, we the outsiders might think that, this might be trivial, but for you it is important.
Yes.
It is indeed important.
And you live by that. That's good to know. That's really reassuring, if I can put it that way, especially for those who feel that way as well.
Indeed.
Now, going forward, you made mention of the salary aspect of it, and always just smile. Just to see, the kind of work is involved, and you get in that kind of.
Yes.
But as it stands today, as it relates to the training aspect of it, though, how often do you guys train, and how often do you all stay up to date in terms of the fire code and so on and so on?
Well, we train basically daily. What we do on-the-job training. As we work, we have sessions at work to stay abreast of modern terms and terminologies, technology, modern equipment, so that we are always up to date. We do have scheduled trainings that is outside of the daily, everyday on-the-job training, to keep our officers on par. As we see, the economy it just continues to go and go and go and go. The types of structures that are being erected now, they're not the regular two-story homes. They're not the regular wood and concrete. They are 5 stories, 6 stories. So we now have to stay up to date with the way we fight those type of fires. It's not like before, you could stay from outside and deal with a 2-story building. You now have to consider going inside. So you have to now understand the types of attacks to use And here is where now we have to enforce, and this is where the code comes in.
Mm-hmm.
We have to enforce, as I would consider a 5-story building to be a high-rise, a skyscraper for us, because we are accustomed to the regular 1 floor, 2 story. So we are getting these lot of skyscrapers now, and we have to now enforce and have persons understand the need to have what we call a fire suppression system built into these buildings, a wet system where we can now stay from on the outside, opposed to having to go inside with 10 hoses. We go inside with one and we connect on the inside of the building, right? So we don't have to be running stairs with 10 and 20 lines from outside.
So which means you'll have to be aware of the building as well to say, well, okay, then we
Yes.
go in here, we know this building, we know there's a outlet here in the second
Exactly.
floor, the
Yes.
third floor.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
That is why at the fire services we should be made aware of the building plans, and that is why we have a representation on the building board, so that when we have these new buildings
Structures.
going up, we do walkthroughs, so we know how the building is laid out. We understand how the fire suppression system is laid out, and that makes our work a little bit easier, say, and it makes the building, well, you're basically securing your investment, because once you have a fire, the suppression systems, they could be automatic or otherwise they just go off in the area where you have the actual fire. And as I was mentioning before, there are pre-connections that we could just go up, snap on, open, and we go and start fighting. There are also stations where we could actually pull the hose from the station. So we go back to the training. So training now teaches us how to deal with those type of situations in a building where you don't have any of that fire suppression system. Now we now have to know how to deal with that, because we not only have to fight fires, we have to rescue, and then we have to learn how to prioritize which comes first, right? So we train on a regular basis. There are some times where we, like during the fire season, we may do more in-house theoretical than practicals, because we sometimes, especially yesterday, we had like 5-6 fire calls yesterday, and that's
Wow.
only for one station.
Wow.
So to have that amount of calls and still doing practical drills, that's
It's
you
taxing.
understand what
Yeah,
it does
yeah,
for the body.
Yeah, it's
So the
taxing.
men needs to rest. They need to rest. So in this period, we will do more theoretical sessions.
To
Yeah.
compensate for the physical.
Well,
Okay.
yes.
So just in case
They-
you're prepared physically.
They get the physical out there in the field.
Yeah, because it's
Because it's
of
fire.
the high demand.
Like Mr. Williams said, 5 fires yesterday. You know, so that's their physical at point of getting their work in. But the theoretical side now, we enforce the way they go and attack a fire, deal with getting that fire extinguished.
Now, forgive my ignorance. What is so physical about fighting a fire?
It is very physical. I mean, you have to
Everything
have
about
you
it
have
is
to have
physical.
the stamina, the endurance. When you have to, let's take for example a bush fire. We have some large fields that are on fire. Now these guys, they have to go through the field. They're already in their what we call bunker gears, the fire suit, which is weighty. If those suits are even wet, that's additional weight there again. Then they have to be able to pull hoses through these fields where you have trees, entanglement, and stuff like that happening.
Okay, I see what you're saying now.
The,
Yes.
the water that is within the hose as well is added weight for that firefighter to pull. So it is extremely tedious for we as fire officers going out there and doing our job.
Some people might just say, it's a bushfire, just don't leave it alone, let it burn. I don't see why the fire department have to be there. What would you say to that individual?
I would say we there are times where we as fire officers we would let a fire burn out, but then there are other times that it needs our urgent attention in getting it out. Um, Property might be affected. You have persons in the neighborhood who suffer from different ailments, asthma, for example, where the smoke is really messing with their breathing. You know, we take all of that into consideration in getting a fire extinguished.
So in other words, depends on the location. You
Right.
take the
Right.
appropriate actions.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
Okay.
I was just about to say.
Okay.
For some fires, because of the extent of the field, it might be quicker to do what we call a backlighting process in order to get that fire extinguished. If we find that the water that is being used, and remember that we are in a drought season as well, the water that is being used is too much. The area is large. By the time the fire truck goes and gets refilled to come back, the fire is already progressing further than where it is. Then we might use other strategies in getting that fire extinguished.
Opposed to the water
Opposed
aspect.
to, yes, just
Yeah.
constantly trying with the water.
Now, you made mention of 6 fires yesterday, and I'm not asking this for you to report directly in terms of where and what happened, but were those fires bush fires?
Bushfires.
Brush fires?
Yes.
Bush, as you say,
Bush,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Bush,
it's the
yeah,
same thing?
same
Okay,
thing.
okay. All right, and I'm assuming it was in residential areas, close residential areas.
Yes.
Hence
Yes.
the demand to get the fires under control.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Now, would you say those fires were deliberate? There's a discussion saying, you know, around this time, it's a mental issue for some people that do these things deliberately. You're in the field. Is it
Yeah.
that way? Is it, or that's just speculation?
Well, there are times when once we arrive on scene, because of how the fire burned, it's evident that it was deliberate. Yesterday in particular, because the fire was burning in more than one place, and there was no connection to say that the fire would have spread across to that area or spread from this area and came up. It was 3 different
Separate.
isolated spots,
Isolated.
right? They had no connection.
Right.
So when we have fires like that, it's easily for us to say that somebody deliberately light this fire. And then there are those that you could see it's a continuous. There are areas where you could see where the fire actually spread to the other field and what's not. And then there are times where you really can't tell. You really can't tell. Because there are instances where you have, depend on the intensity of the fire and the height of the vegetation. The lower the vegetation, then the fire would not be that tall. But if you have higher vegetation, like trees and what's not, then you have a fire which is a tall, let's say a taller fire.
Right.
So the possibility of what we call embers, glowing embers, they fly off from the flames, and they may drop in another field further
Okay.
away.
Right.
So, in cases like that, it looks like someone would have deliberately did it, but it was not so. It just flying embers just went and dropped in the field and start fires someplace else.
So for you, it's not just outing a fire; it's also doing some investigation as well.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
Does the investigation go beyond what caused the fire to prosecuting as well?
Well, once it is evident that it was deliberately started, and we have somebody to prosecute, then prosecute that could go forward. But
Right.
like I mentioned sometime before, in most cases we don't find anybody there.
Wow.
The person will just light and they're gone.
Right.
They don't
Right.
stick around.
Right.
Just a few weeks back, well, not so long, maybe a week and a half back, we had an incident to the back of the Beach Island School where,
Just up here,
yes,
Taylor's.
Taylor's, where 2 areas was lit. We know that was deliberate because one of the neighbors, when they went to investigate, they saw a piece of wood with some cloth wrapped around the wood. So that person used that as the torch to light the areas. You know, so we were doing some investigation where that is concerned. But we really want to appeal to the public, you know, to desist from just lighting fires willfully.
Because as Sergeant Williams indicated, and I'm now seeing why, well, the speculation, because you said this type of the year is the fire season. And, you know, living in a small country, I asked myself over and over when I first heard that a few weeks ago, we have a fire season? I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware of that at all. You know, and in my mind going, well, what is contributing to this fire season? You know, so, but from listening to you guys, it's a number of things, though.
What I could say too, what I have encountered is this time of the year is dry season. The grass is dry. Now, for some of the persons who rear livestock, when you burn an area, fresh green grass sprouts in that area a lot quicker. So rather than having the area dry and the livestock have nothing to feed on, they tend to burn certain areas so that the grass could spring back up much quicker.
Okay, I learned something. Unfortunately, no, gentlemen, we are out of time, though. We are out of time. Yeah. Any last parting words from you guys before we wrap up? Or that's it for you this morning?
Yes, I will like to continue to appeal to the public to help us in our fight against fires, especially these bush fires. We have already responded to 150 fire calls for the year already.
Wow.
That's both St. Kitts and Nevis combined. And out of that 150, 97 of those are bush fires.
Wow.
So we are appealing greatly to the public to, if you light fires, this is from the practice. If you know anybody who practice lighting fires, please tell them not to light any fires. I think that's the only way that we could really get this under control is if all of us join the fight. Again, we want to thank you, and God bless.
That's it. He speaks for you.
Yeah, he said a mouthful, so I would just like to add, we want to thank you, GQ, for having us here operating a show like this. Thank ZIZ for having the fire department, engage in a venture like this. So looking forward to good dialogue with even the public as well.
Yes.
Thank you for listening as well.
Yes. And we'll sure next time we leave some time for you to get in to make so your phone call and ask your question as well. Most definitely. Thanks for being here. Stick around. We have Battle of the Bands coming up next. So touch that dial. It's the morning show.
It's the morning show.
Girl, you got some animals on here killing me. They would not keep out my yard. Can't even get food from my own garden. I'm trying to save to buy some fencing, but they've